Welcome, and thank you for joining me to learn more about the Missouri Department of Mental Health Division of Developmental Disabilities Utilization Review Process. My name is Wanda Crocker, and I am currently one of 3 Assistant Deputy Directors serving the Division of Developmental Disabilities, as well as supporting the utilization review process. The original training of this content was provided via web event on May 15, 2024, and included 5 major components. An overview of the utilization review memo that was effective May 1st, 2024. An overview of the utilization review process. A review of the critical criteria that meets the priority of need 5. Resources that should be explored prior to the Medicaid waiver, and a handful of clarifications and reminders about service components that have surfaced in the last few months. As the May 15th web event experienced systems outage, which broke up the web event and the recording had to be recreated, stakeholders expressed that it would be helpful to have the content divided into smaller content opportunities. This supports people listening and reviewing the content that best meets their needs initially and as refreshers are needed. This particular session, Utilization Review Part 4, explores resources outside of the division. Let's get started. The other resources that should be explored include, but are not limited to, state plan services, vocational rehabilitation, natural resources such as family, friends. Missouri Assistive Technology Loan Program is often an option. Community resources such as service fraternity projects, miscellaneous local organizations, other resources that as a local support coordination entity, the TCM is more in tune with than TCM entities who come from another county. So we'll spend a lot of our time in this session talking mostly about state plan services. State plan services must be accessed when state plan offers a similar companion service to the DD waiver service, whether by standard approval or whether an exception is needed. Similar state plan services include, but are not limited to, personal care attendant, nursing services, and specialized medical equipment. If state plan services are approved, but the individual or family do not wish to use them, the request submitted to the DD waiver is reduced by the amount available through state plan. State plan must issue an adverse action letter when formal request is made. And there is an online referral system that the individual can use or the support coordinator can use to help people. And let's look at that, see if we can go there. So this is the online referral for home and community-based services. This is on the Senior and Disability Services website. It is predominantly for adults seeking the home and community-based services because children use the Healthy Children and Youth Program or other programs. If you click on this, it is a really simple, easy red cap form that you go through and answer a series of questions. And at the end, you'll enter demographic information so that the person doing the assessment for health and senior services can reach out to the individual and their family. So just to go over a few things, just on a few details on this. When you fill this out, you are marking, I understand and agree. I or the person being referred would like to receive services in my or their home and has needs equal to those entering a nursing facility. This means the person being referred is believed to have needs equal to those in need of a nursing facility. So a lot of people struggle with this. What you need to remember is that in order to apply for Missouri Division of Developmental Disabilities DD waiver, a person must need or at risk to need ICF or intermediate care facility for intellectual and developmental disabilities. That is a division of DD's equivalent to a nursing home placement. So if you're saying, yes, this person needs ICF ID level of care, therefore needs a Medicaid waiver slot, saying yes to the nursing home facility placement is a similar statement. Additionally, both the Division of Developmental Disabilities and the Division of Senior and Disability Services have procedure which indicate that the Division of Developmental Disabilities Support Coordinator shall make a referral for state plan services. So remember that, you are given support to make this referral. We know that it makes people uneasy because if you look at the bottom of the screen, it states that it is illegal in the state of Missouri to willfully provide false information in an attempt to obtain public assistance benefits program services. Keeping in mind that these precautions were put into place based on false claims, statements that people were bedbound when they were not. There were obviously false statements seeking services. So go back to the procedures on the Division of Developmental Disabilities website, as well as Division of Senior and Disability Services website, that indicate that the Division of Developmental Disability Support Coordinator or their contracted support coordinator, which is a TCM entity, shall make referral to state plan services. Okay. So I know that's a little scary with the language there, but just keep in mind that you have permission, support, that the people we serve should be exhausting all comparable services prior to asking for a community or comprehensive partnership for hope, any waiver slot, whether that is a Division of Developmental Disabilities waiver slot or a waiver slot from another department. Okay. So we're going to come out of this. Additionally, if a family or individual is already receiving state plan services and they have a change in status, there's been a deterioration, something has changed, and they need additional personal care attendant services, they can ask for a change in service request through that same website that we're in. Go back to that Senior and Disability Services and you see an online person-centered planning requests are now available. So if a person has a change in status and needs additional state plan hours, they can click on this. It will take them to a REDCap form, or the support coordinator again could initiate this for them. This is an official referral from which the individual will receive a contact to complete an assessment or ask for additional information to determine if additional services are necessary and available for that person. Okay. So personal assistance services available in the DMH waiver are considered comparable to state plan PA services authorized by the Division of Senior and Disability Services. Therefore, when a DDSC or support coordinator determines that PA services are needed, they must contact Senior and Disability Services to ensure state plan personal assistance services are exhausted before the authorization of PA services in the DD waiver. Now, there are some differences between the services. So the support coordinator needs to walk through those differences with the family and inform this as a requirement. So let's talk about that. Support coordinator must inform the individual the requirement to access state plan services prior to waiver services. And a referral to Senior and Disability Services must be initiated. To be clear, in Senior and Disability Services, personal assistance services can prompt or cue an individual to perform functions and provide instruction to the person how to complete self-care, which may be a component of the task. However, if encouragement and instruction are the entirety of the service, then it's not appropriate for state plan. So let's talk about what that means, because people use this one very globally and freely. Thinking of the statement where Senior and Disability Services can provide prompting, cueing, instruction as a component of their overall service, as long as it is not the sole purpose. Let's think about that in greater detail. Let's say the person needs assistance with getting dressed, and they need someone to say, Don't forget your shoes are in the closet. Well, it's really cold outside, so you should probably wear jeans, not shorts today. And the person can put on their clothing, but they don't have the dexterity to zip the zipper, button the buttons, tie the shoes. Then there is a component of care being delivered, and therefore it is appropriate to refer to senior and disability services. So if you are only strictly asking for prompting and queuing of a personal care task, and that person can do every single thing for themselves, relying on no hands-on service support, then you do not have to make a referral to senior and disability services. However, keep in mind that the utilization review process will scrutinize your request. So often we see a tremendous amount of hours being asked for that are being labeled simply as queuing and prompting. But what's being described in the plan is so much more. And I will give you an example that we just received last week. At the very top of the utilization review justification, it says individual does not qualify for state plan services. The individual has qualifying Medicaid, and they're asking for the division to fund waiver services for PA. And the description of what is provided says this person needs help in taking a bath. They need someone to prepare meals for them. They need someone to do laundry. Those things are exactly what state plan does. So the statement at the beginning directly conflicts and contradicts with the statement later in the plan. So that is going to be an automatic pushback, either asking for asking for additional information or labeled as an incomplete request because it conflicts with itself. So make sure that what you are writing in your UR packet, one, matches the service you're asking for, and two, cannot be provided by a different funding source, and three, that your packet doesn't contradict itself. Okay, keep in mind the purpose of the service. Keep in mind that the description you're providing is the information given to us from which to make a decision through utilization review. And things need to match up, match the definition, match itself within the body of the document that you're writing. So the process for referring to state plan, there's a couple of things. State plan is a requirement as outlined in the waiver, as outlined in the procedures to refer to state plan, both on the Division of Developmental Disabilities and Senior and Disability Services websites. If the individual chooses not to accept the state plan agency-based services, the hours authorized through state plan agency-based services will not be authorized under the GD waiver personal assistance service. So if the person is evaluated and they are found eligible, and DD and state plan services would give them, let's say, 15 hours a week, but they say, no, I don't want to receive services. I only want services through the DD waiver, then those 15 hours would be reduced from the amount being requested from the division. Likewise, if an individual makes a referral or the support corps makes a referral on their behalf and the individual or their family refuse to participate in an assessment, then it will be assumed that they would have qualified for the maximum amount of state plan services available. And that amount should be communicated between the DSDS staff and the support coordinator, so the support coordinator can document that in their utilization review request and clearly remove the maximum amount of services that would have been available through state plan from the waiver service request. So it is essential that we encourage people to participate and be open. There are a lot of services available to people, and it is in their best interest to receive services from every source that is available to them so that they can wrap around and help that person be successful in their home, wherever that looks like. So support program will explain to families that health and senior services cannot be started in order to access waiver services, and then subsequently stop those state plan services once the waiver is implemented. So utilization review will be paying particular attention when a service request is made for increase in waiver services to ensure that the state plan services are continuing. Please be sure that you're documenting that clearly in your ISP and your justification. Participants qualifying for both self-directed programs who choose to receive self-directed services through DD will be authorized for state plan agency-based services by DSDS staff. So let's revisit that. If a person indicates that they are interested in doing self-directed services and they want to do that through the Division of Developmental Disabilities Medicaid waiver, they cannot also receive self-directed supports through state plan. They can only receive one or the other. Therefore, they would receive state plan services through an agency-based delivery system, but would self-direct through the waiver. So you might be asking, why does that happen? Well, state plan's self-directed program has different criteria than our waiver. State plan doesn't support a designated representative being involved to operationalize the self-directed service. Our waiver does. So making the choice to use the DD waiver for self-directed services is an awesome choice, but that doesn't replace the state plan hours that they were approved for. They simply would have that through an agency and state plan while they have DD self-directed waiver services as well. Just a reminder, it's often a misunderstanding. Some of our individuals receive managed care program Medicaid. Those people have to receive referral and authorization through their managed care programs. Health and Senior Service does not authorize those services for managed care participants. So to make that referral, you would contact the number on the back of your managed care plan card. Just to provide some clarification, adult day healthcare is not a state plan service. It is also a Medicaid waiver. It is just operationalized by our friends over at the Department of Health and Senior Services. A person can only be enrolled in one waiver at a time. So our CSR says, and any individual who's eligible for services under more than one waiver and has priority access to services based on their score as set forth in the CSR. When funding is available under both programs, that person shall be offered a choice of the waiver that best meets their needs, including home and community-based waivers operated by any other Missouri state agency. So to break that down a little simpler, if a person is eligible for both adult day healthcare waiver and DD Medicaid waiver for rehabilitation, it's the role of the support coordinator to help that person understand the benefits of each waiver type and decide which waiver is the best choice for them. And they can select that waiver. Now they still have to access state plan services because state plan services are not a waiver. But in the case of adult day healthcare, if the person is seeking rehabilitation, they are eligible for both waiver types, they have the ability to choose. The choice is only available when all three of the following are true. They meet the criteria for the DD waiver and, of course, the adult day healthcare waiver. There are waiver slots available, and the service requested meets the definition of the waiver requested. So often we receive utilization review packets, and what is being described as rehabilitation does not meet rehabilitation service definition. So they can choose between waivers, but they still have to meet the criteria. Slots and funding have to be available, and what they're asking for has to meet the DD waiver definition. So keep that in mind and make sure what you're describing meets the definition. So give you a few scenarios when a plan might be returned as incomplete and you're referred to state plan. The person is aging out of a state plan. Criteria such as a child turning 21, aging out of state plan, and is now asking for a DD waiver, and they have not been reassessed through state plan adult services. Plan presents as queuing and prompting only, but what they're asking for is a large amount of PA through our waiver, the division's waiver, and or they're indicating care for functions that can be provided by state plan. ISP says person is not eligible for state plan, but has eligible Medicaid, and the plan is asking for Medicaid waiver to cover functions provided by state plan, PA, or specialized medical equipment, whether as a standard or as an exception. The person's status has changed. They previously might not have been eligible for state plan due to queuing and prompting, but they later asked for 30 hours of an additional DD waiver service, such as PA or day hab. So their status has changed. Something has changed about their situation that you are now asking for a substantial amount of service. So why isn't state plan being accessed at that point? You were requesting specialized medical equipment that requires an exception to be filed by state plan. Or information indicates the person refused assessment and you haven't reduced your request for DD service hours by equitable or the maximum amount of state plan hours they would have been eligible for. So that was a lot of information, and I know that it's very confusing. There's a lot of different resources out there in the field. A lot of people are eligible for a variety of different programs, and keeping all those programs straight and knowing when and how to make a referral is challenging. The Division of Developmental Disabilities is committed to continuing to develop resources and partnerships with our other government departments to create tools and resources for support parents and families to better navigate all of the different systems. So this, I know, was a short presentation. We could have spent a lot more time going into details, but it's really intended to hit the basics, need to know knowledge, so that you can take that information and spring forward with your research and identification of the variety of services you can wrap around this person to help them, and the tips and helpful know-hows as to what to do or not to do, what to ask for, not to ask for, how to draft your explanation in your utilization review packet that's going to really illustrate for the people making decisions to approve or deny or place on wait lists when wait lists are appropriate, the level of need and everything that's been explored for this person and what's been exhausted, therefore explaining and showing us clearly why waiver services are needed. Thank you for joining me. I hope this was helpful. Please feel free to review all of the 4 utilization review modules available to you. I hope that the shortened version of the trainings makes them easier to assimilate and understand as meets your needs and as time permits.